Hi guys, Mr. Holding here, and this quick video is looking at how we do our table for our assignment on the moons and the tides. So if you look here at the task instructions, you've gone through, written your introduction. Your aim is to investigate the influence and position of the moon and the height of the tides. These here are your materials. Your task instruction. Using the provided tide chart, and that's this one here, okay, collate the data into a table showing the following information for specified dates. Okay, so there's information here. So in your table, you need to include the highest tide, the lowest tide, phases of the moon, the tidal range, and the date. So they're the 5 things that you need to include. So now we've identified the 5 things to include in our table: the date, phase of moon, high tide, low tide, and tidal range. We need to work out what's going to be down the side and what's going to be along the top. And I suppose what you need to look at is, what's the independent variables, what's the dependent variables? So the question is, does the tide relate to are the tides caused by the moon phases, or are the moon phases caused by the tide? All right, now we know that the tide is caused by the phases of the moon, so we say that these are the dependent variables, these ones here, dependent variables, and which means that these two are the independent variables. Okay, now with that in mind, we can put them either way, but I would put the phases of the moon down the side, okay, and then the high tide, low tide, tidal range along the top. Okay, and the date and the phase of moon, we can link them. Now, on your task instructions, you're actually given the dates here: 1st of October, 4th of October, 9th, 13th, 16th, 20th, 23rd, 27th, 30th. Now, each of these correspond to a different phase of the moon. So you need to look over here. Okay, so we might go to the 1st, for instance, and look at that and go, okay, well, there's no moon, which means it's a new moon. Okay, so on the 1st, we put new moon. Okay, now in order to work out how many columns, how many rows we need down and how many columns we need across, we need to know what kind of information. Now here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've got 9 dates going down, okay, plus the row at the top. So that's going to be 10 rows that we need. All right, now going from left to right, how many columns do we need? All right, if we look at, we need column for the date, we need a column for the phase, we need a column for the high tide, a column for the low tide, and a column for the tidal range. So in total, that's five columns that we're going to need. So I've done my table now, and I've got 5 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for my tidals, and then I've got 10 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1 for the tidal, and then 9 for the dates, and then the corresponding information there. And all I then need to do is go and put in my titles and put in my dates. So I've done that now, and I've got my date, moon phase, high tide in meters, and make sure I put my units there, low tide in meters, tidal range, and I've just put a little thing there and how I did that, so high tide minus low tide. Okay, and the units are meters as well. And of course, I've got the dates that were listed in my task instructions here. Okay, the next step to do, and you're going to have to do this on your own, is go to this piece of paper here and go and find these dates and write down what moon phase is that on the 1st of October. Okay, is it a full moon? Is it a half moon? Is it a new moon? And write it in there. Then go to the 4th. What kind of moon is that? Then go to the 9th. What phase of the moon is that? 13th. What phase of the moon is that? 16th, 20th, 23rd, 27th, and 30th. And you write down the different phases. Okay, so that's relatively easy to do. We go down, write them in. So new moon, waning gibbous, waxing gibbous, waning crescent, waxing crescent, half moon, quarter moon, full moon, whatever it is. Okay, the next step, once you've done that, is to go and write the high tide and low tides and then calculate the tidal range. Okay, and same thing. So if we go to the 1st, we might do this one. So the 1st is a new moon. So I write that in, and I go and look for the highest tide. So hopefully I'll give you a bit more. There you go, it's a bit clearer. So on the 1st, I go across here, 0.1, no, that's not particularly high. 2.1, that's a high tide. 0.2, no, and 2.1. So the highest tides, they're both the same, is 2.1 meters. Now, because I've already got the meters written up here, I don't need to rewrite it. My low tide, however, this one is 0.1 and this one is 0.2. So the lowest tide is 0.1. Okay, and then to work out my tidal range, okay, high tide minus low tide, 2.1 take away 0.1 is 2.0 meters. Okay, and so that's my tidal range. Okay, now I've done these ones for, I'll focus that again for you. Okay, so I've done this one here. Now, obviously I would need to do that for all of them, and that's going to complete the information for my table. Now, I haven't quite finished because at the top, I need to make sure that I label my table. Okay, now already for you it's got table 1 and the colon. Now you need to name it. Okay, so what is this information representing? Is it the tide heights based on moon phase or something along the lines of that? You need to come up with a title and make sure you include it. All right, you'll notice that I've used a ruler. You'll notice that I measured it out. So in my case, I measured 15 centimeters across and columns that are 3 centimeters wide each. Okay, and then because I've got lined paper, I just use 2 lines per row. But you may need to do something else. You may do a centimeter, you may do 1.5. Whatever it is, it needs to be neat and tidy. It needs to be straight. Okay, and needs to be accurate, because this is how you're presenting your data for the table, and then from that we're going to do our graph from that. Okay, I hope you found this helpful.